Welcome to Tales from the Jar Side, the Gson IT newsletter, this time for the week of July 16th through 23rd, 2023. Don't feel like reading the newsletter or don't have time? That's fine, I'll read it to you, along with backstory and other comments and some demos and everything. Let's take a look. So the title this week is Tales from the Jar Side, live stream with Baruch Sadogursky, AI Tools for Java Developers. I am become Barbie, destroyer of worlds, and more. Tweets, Toots, Skeets, etc., whatever the heck they're called. The subtitle this week is What is a Web Developer's Favorite Tea? URL or Earl Grey. Yeah, okay, that's about the best I could come up with this week. A little bit awkward, but okay, so be it. So welcome, fellow jarheads, to Tales from the Jar Side. I spent this week at UberConf, thus the t-shirt, of course, in Westminster, Colorado, which is just outside of Denver. I go there pretty much every year. It's one of the flagship conferences on the No Fluff, Just Stuff tour. I gave a full-day workshop on latest features in Java. That was fun. And 6 different talks in addition to that. The one I'm going to spend the most time talking about today is the one on AI tools for Java developers. I gave my mental bookmarks and the fractal nature of success talk. That was interesting as well. An upgrade to modern Java, 2 parts to that. Then testing talks on JUnit 5 and on Mockito. Most of that was my usual stuff. I've done those talks before. The AI talk is the new one. Regular readers of and listeners to, and of course video viewers of this newsletter are known as jarheads, affectionately of course, and are far more intelligent, sophisticated, and attractive than the average newsletter reader or listener or viewer. If you wish to become a jarhead, please subscribe using the button on the website. Now, it's time for our weekly check-in on YouTube to see how the corresponding channel is working. Let me stop. Unit 5 is a fantastic improvement there. Got to stop that autoplay. We are up to 484 subscribers, homing in on that 500 mark. Hopefully we can get there within another week or so. I'm planning at least one more video in addition to this week, and we'll see how things go in addition to that. In fact, this week, let me talk to you about that part. It's of the newsletter. If you look under videos and under latest, you'll see that the one I talked about last week on Gradle, the zip, unzip, and jar one, the zip, unzip, hooray comment, I mentioned in the newsletter last week. I got some feedback from people like Cedric Champeau, and I had to update the Gradle repository with his comments in there. It's not that the code was wrong. The code all worked, but I didn't follow the Gradle idioms for the Kotlin DSL, especially when it comes to the provider interface. So I'm actually going to be spending some time digging into that a bit more soon. I'm not exactly sure when that video will come out, but I will talk more about lazy evaluation and the provider interface in the Kotlin DSL in the coming couple of weeks, something like that. I also, of course, put out the regular newsletter video, but I should also mention, first of all, I did a live stream. Here's the link to that with Baruch Sadogursky. That was a lot of fun. Now, that was different for a couple of reasons. One is that we were together at UberConf, and he is now a developer advocate for Gradle, for the Gradle Incorporated company. And he's got all kinds of new toys to play with, especially video related. So while I normally record this stuff on my webcam, etc., I've got a nice mic anyway. He had 3 cameras and, just all kinds of cool equipment. So we figured what the heck, we'd use his equipment, and we did that on Friday. So we had a nice live stream at 4K resolution and everything, and that's loaded here on the website. Now, I also took a little snippet out of that and extracted it into a YouTube short, and you'll see that's the one here on how Baruch got his job title. So developer advocate was not a trivial thing, and it was not a thing when he first got it, back when he started working for JFrog, the company behind Artifactory and similar tools. So at any rate, I do encourage you to take a look at that one. It's entertaining, at any rate. And there's another video, another short that I put together, which was part of that talk I was telling you about on AI tools for Java developers. Now, this actually had nothing to do with Java developers, but I used Descript and was demonstrating several of the AI tools associated with it. So this little short here shows, first of all, how I could write a transcript and have Descript narrate it for me, either using a built-in overdub stock voice or the voice that it trained on my own voice. So I could say things I never said, which is pretty scary, actually. The other thing I added in is that, like, during the week before I gave that talk, just before I gave the talk, they updated the Descript tool to have what they call its overdub capability. I'm sorry, not overdub. It has the eye tracking. Let me show you that. This is my UberConf demo. Now, I prepared it ahead of time just in case things went wonky during the talk. I had to be very careful about that. But you can kind of see here, and incidentally, just for your information, as I was going to open up this particular video, Descript said, hey, it's time to update again. You ready to update? I'm like, sure. So what could go wrong? At any rate, I have this little block here that I just typed, and it wound up reading that in my voice. And then this block here, I recorded, but what you'll actually see over here is I use the eye contact effect, so that when I'm talking, even though I deliberately looked away at different spots, it corrected and made it look like I was staring at it. So since this is less than a minute, let me just run through it. AI tools like Descript make it easy to create and edit video. They provide stock voices, which can narrate your script. You can also train them on your own voice and use that to read items you never said.
I'm trying this out so we can see if it's able to transcribe the voice as well as detect my eye movement. I'm going to try the experimental beta version that is supposed to make it so that I'm always looking into the camera. That's why I'm deliberately looking away occasionally. Hope this works. We'll see what happens.
So there you go. So this is Descript. It's a lot of fun to play with, and it's got these new effects in it. By the way, I also used another AI tool that they include called Studio Sound, and I took that recording, that second half there, which was done on an inexpensive microphone in my hotel room, and cleaned up the sound that way. It also has capabilities. You can see the little button up here to, for example, shorten word gaps or detect transcription errors and remove filler words. And I don't really need a lot of that. I don't tend to throw in a lot of filler words, but it can do that for me. So I'm going to put the affiliate link in the description. If you wind up subscribing to Descript, it's a subscription tool, then I'd get a little bit of a reward, but the price is the same to you either way. Use it or don't, whatever you prefer, that's fine. Okay, so that's Descript. Let me go back to the newsletter. So first of all, I've already covered this, the live stream with Baruch, so that's included in the newsletter. And I forgot to tell you, by the way, I didn't say it in the live stream, but he and I were co-hosts of the Groovy podcast for many, many years. In fact, the No Fluff site still hosts that. You could see it here. He's even still listed, even though he hasn't been involved for a long time. Wow, we are way overdue for another Groovy podcast. But at any rate, not a lot happens quickly in the Groovy world, so it's not like I won't be able to catch up. I can't get rid of that picture either because I'll never have that much hair again, but oh well, let's get rid of that. I also included in here the little snippet, the short about how he got his job title. Baruch was employee number 10 at JFrog, and the company did very, very well. And after 11 years, they went public, and he wound up taking a, quote, extended sabbatical, which meant he spent a year in the Mediterranean relaxing. It's amazing. So he did quite well. He's now a principal developer advocate for Gradle, and I wish him a lot of luck. Let's talk about that AI stuff. So I gave this talk at UberConf called AI Tools for Java Developers, and I already showed you the Descript tool. but I covered a lot more ground than that. Now, I talked about ChatGPT, I talked about Google's Bard, I talked about the one I actually like a lot, which is Anthropic's Claude, which is very good, and I discussed the AI assistant built inside IntelliJ IDEA, which I've had mixed results with. I mean, it's good. It's clearly a ChatGPT version that's been trained to understand code. So most of the time it's pretty good. Sometimes it's a little flaky. I have to mention, though, is that during the conference, Meta released Llama 2, and I wasn't able to use it before my talk, but I tried it out while I was writing the newsletter, right away there. So just to give you an idea what that was like, here was a snippet from the conversation I had. I said, how do I give you the contents of a file to summarize? Copy and paste? And it said, yes, you can copy and paste the contents of the file into the chat window and I can help you summarize it. Alternatively, you can also upload the file to a sharing service like Dropbox or Google Drive and share the link with me. I'll be happy to help you summarize the contents once I have access to the file. And I thought, really? So I could put it in Google Drive or in Dropbox and you can access it and read it. So I thought, all right, I'm going to try this out. So I went to the directory that has my latest Java GitHub repository in it. And I ran the jwebserver command, which comes with Java 18. That allows Java to have a trivial file server that serves up files in that directory to get requests. And of course, it supports head requests as well, but that's all. So I figured, okay, please summarize the contents of this file. And it's an earlier version of my Java latest presentation in PDF form. And I gave it the link. And the response I got back was, sure, the file you've linked is a PDF document titled What's New in Java. So far, so good. Here's a summary of the contents. And I won't read the whole thing to you, but I'll simply tell you that I could tell almost immediately that no. I mean, just a world of no. Because at least, well, how many bullet points are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'd say 3/4 of them, 2/3 of them, at any rate, are wrong. I mean, aren't covered in the PDF at all. I hope that helps. It says, let me know if you have any further questions. So I replied, half of those points, at least, aren't true. Did you really access the file or are you just guessing, given the title? And it responded with, I apologize, here we go, for the inaccuracies in my previous response. I did not actually access the file as I am not able to browse the internet or access external resources. So much for Google Docs or Dropbox or whatever. Instead, I made an educated guess based on the title of the file and my knowledge of common topics related to Java. I apologize for any confusion this may have caused. I mean, that's just totally wrong. It's the wrong thing to do. In the future, I will make sure to clarify when I am making assumptions or providing incomplete information. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Really, you're very welcome, and may I say, sarcastically, from the bottom of my heart, you're a lying idiot. I mean, I did kind of expect it. More to the point, one thing I've learned about all of these AI tools is if you ask them what they can and can't do, don't trust the answers. They will give an answer because they're expected to give an answer, but it's like asking a toddler what it can and can't do, or just a little kid. They're going to say something, but the connection of that something to reality is tenuous at best. I mean, there's just no way to know whether what they answer you is right or not. I did not try it with Google Docs or Dropbox or what have you. Maybe I'll try it again, but that's all right. I'm working around it. Now that brings me actually to an interesting section. This is the section on using the OpenAI API. Now, OpenAI is the company behind ChatGPT and Whisper and the associated tools. The word open there is to be taken with a serious grain of salt because now it's pretty much owned by Microsoft and it's not open source in any stretch of the imagination. However, I wanted to show in my talk actually writing some Java code that accessed this thing and sent requests and got responses back. So I wrote the code. Now, if you look at the API, and I'm not going to show it right now, but if you look at the API for OpenAPI, it is basically a RESTful web service. You send post requests with JSON data for the message you want it to respond to, and it sends back JSON data in response, all in the body. So given that, in order to use Java for it, all I needed to do was map the JSON data to some Java records. That's easy enough to do. And then use Java's HTTP client, which is kind of on the verbose side, but it does work, and it's built into Java 11. And then I needed to do the parsing of the JSON data. Now, Java doesn't have a built-in parser. The one I decided to use on the spur of the moment was Google's Gson. I may change that to Jackson, because the part I didn't talk about is that when I parse the JSON, that all worked just fine. And in fact, one of the nice features of Google's Gson is that you can set the factory so that it automatically converts snake case, lowercase with underscores, into camel case attributes as you'd find in Java. So that's great. That works fine. The thing I ran into problems with is I decided to use an enum for, I forget what, not for the model. For the roles that you play inside of JSON. Like, is this a system message? Is this a user message? Is this an assistant response? And there's only a couple of options there. It's only 3, actually. So I was going to enforce that and use an enum. And unfortunately, I couldn't get the enum to turn into lowercase to transmit it. Now, I could have just made the enum lowercase, but that really goes against the grain as a Java person. So I asked AI Assistant, hey, how do I do this? And it gave me this huge converter that I had to add to Gson in order to do the conversion for me. And I did it, but it's so ugly. And I said, isn't there an annotation for this like there is in Jackson? And it went, no, you could use Jackson, but that might change everything else. So anyway, it's all in there, and I put it in a GitHub repository. It's located at github.com/ well, here, I'll open it up. So it's github.com/ my last name, Kouscn, at OpenAI demo. Now, I've been playing with that a lot today because I'm trying to build a little quiz and interrogating ChatGPT. And in fact, the nice thing is if I'm writing the code myself, I can access my file system. I could read files off of it. I could transmit the message. I could save data to a file. I could do all those things that ChatGPT cannot do by itself, for example. Now, the pricing here, I added in the cost, and it said ChatGPT 3.5 model is about 0.15 cents per 1,000 input tokens and 0.2 cents, so 0.2 of a penny per 1,000 output tokens. The GPT-4 is 10 times that, or more. It's like 3 cents per 1,000 input tokens and 6 cents per 1,000 output tokens. And a token's about 750 words. They say figured 75% roughly. And it cost me, oh my goodness, 5 cents? No, 3 cents apparently to prepare for the talk. And I think I've spent another 3 or 4 cents working with it today. I switched to GPT-4 and really splurged, and now I've spent another, well, not quite a dime yet. So at any rate, if you're interested, you can see the code, and I'll go on from there. Now, the Descript part I've already talked to you about, so let me just summarize here. I know it had nothing to do with Java developers, but I thought it would be very interesting, so I illustrated that. And then there's that YouTube short. So it did the overdub capability and the eye contact and studio sound and on and on. Now, the other tool I used was Canva, and let me show you what that looks like. So here is Canva, and I use the magic design mechanism. It says, describe the presentation you want, and we'll write and design a draft for you instantly. So in front of everybody in the talk, I said, I'm making a presentation on AI tools for Java developers. And it did indeed generate this little thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 slides with content that isn't really close to what I wanted. I mean, sure, there's a couple of APIs, TensorFlow, deep learning for J. Yeah, okay, but that's not what I was going to be using. However, what I thought I would have fun using is this little robot here. I made this image using Midjourney. I just said to Midjourney, give me a robot drinking a cup of coffee while coding in Java. Now, that's not actually what it gave me. If I look at what it actually gave me, it was this. Let me drag it over. And you see it's got this extra cup of coffee in it, right? Like that. And I thought, okay, that gives me an opportunity to show one of the features of Canva. So if I click on Edit Photo here, there's this magic eraser capability. So when I click on that, I can get rid of this second cup of coffee here if I'm very careful. And then when I let go, the only problem is it left the shadow. So now I got to get rid of that. I didn't do it quite as cleanly as I did it during the presentation, but let's do that. Not too bad. I guess I have to try again. Let's see. Okay, let's try that. It only took me 2 tries during the talk. Yeah, there you go. Now it's a perfectly clean table. That looks great. And now you see I've cleaned up the presentation. Wonderful. The other thing I did on that is I added some music in the background. And let's see if I can get to the music part. They have another thing called Beat Sync. And when I click on Beat Sync, that will synchronize the slide transitions with the downbeat of the music. So I'm already 5 seconds into it, but let's hear what it sounds like a little bit. At any rate, it goes on and on. And if that was several of the tools associated with the AI tools associated with Canva. It also has a basic background remover, which works really well and really fast, which I like. If you are interested, I did in fact update or upload that to LinkedIn. I posted the slideshow. You know, it's not much to it, but you can take a look if you're interested. Just don't believe any of the contents. It's there just to illustrate the AI part. Let's move on to our tweets, toots, and skeets this week. Well, of course, I had to talk about Barbenheimer. A couple weeks ago, I suggested that it would be called Barbenheimer and saw other people calling it Barbieheimer, and I thought, well, maybe that's it. No, the world seems to have settled on Barbenheimer for the combination of the Barbie movie and Oppenheimer, and apparently that open day weekend, both movies did wonderfully, far exceeding expectations. I think I saw a news article that suggested over 200,000 people bought tickets to both in the same weekend. I don't really plan to do that. I'm not sure. I mean, I think I can wait until the Barbie movie comes to one of my cable services, one of the streaming services. But Oppenheimer, yeah, I think that I probably do want to see on the big screen, maybe even IMAX. So it's in the plan. I did start collecting the memes, however, and here's one. I thought that was pretty good with Oppenheimer carrying Barbie on his shoulder. Here, this one is a little more subtle than I thought. It says, Barbie says, my product was first launched in Japan, and Oppenheimer's not saying anything. And of course, yeah, his product was first launched in Japan as well, with much less favorable results. Yikes. I went, yeah, I mean, that's the dropping of the 2 atomic bombs, of course. Moving on, this was pretty good with the Oppenheimer poster with dedicated, decked out in pink, and the comment, come on, Bobby, let's go party. And that gave me a chance to mention one of the YouTube channels I really enjoy is called Todd in the Shadows. And he talks about a lot of different videos and musical features. One thing he brought up is just this week was his One Hit Wonderland series. And he discussed, obviously, Barbie Girl by Aqua. I found it fascinating. I had no idea how much Mattel hated that song, but I guess it's not surprising in retrospect. If nothing else, that song is a lot creepier, more sexual than Mattel would be comfortable with, especially for toys designed for children. Nevertheless, I do recommend the video. I think it's fascinating. From what I understand, they didn't want to add it to the movie. They denied they were adding it to the movie, but in the end, they, of course, added it because I think too many people were expecting it for them to leave it out entirely. And then there was this nice little one which had Barbie with the pink atomic bomb in the background. What's the quote from the Bhagavad Gita? I am become Barbie, destroyer of worlds. Yeah, okay, something like that. So I thought this summed up the reaction from some of those strange conservatives online. It said conspiracy theorists who believe a movie about plastic dolls is trying to turn kids gay or trans are called Barbie Q, right? As in QAnon. Yeah, okay, let's move on. Let me get this out of the way. Okay. This was clever, living in the moment. It said, if you were offered $50 million to take a pill that kills you when you turn 70 years old, would you take it? Why or why not? And the best response of all said, I would literally take a pill that kills me in 72 hours for a donut. Yeah, we all have a price, and some are higher than others, and some are lower than others. This I found very geeky, but very clever. Please don't do this. It says, running out of space on your laptop? Remove the French language pack, sudo rm-fr/. Yeah, this would be bad. Sudo means run with super user status. So higher privileges, you can do anything you want. RM is remove. That's the delete one. -F is force, and -R is recursive. So that means start at the root of the hard drive and wipe out everything without asking for permission. Yeah, you don't really want to do that. But the funny part, I'd always seen that as rm-rf/. By reversing RF and making it FR, makes it look like French. Yeah, that's the gag. Very, very clever in a particularly evil sort of way. This one, entitled As the Planet Boils, says, this is like the dinosaurs having their picture taken with an asteroid, right? And it's a picture of some of the park rangers in Death Valley standing next to that sign showing the temperature hitting 132 degrees Fahrenheit, 55 degrees Celsius. Wow. Now, from what I understand from others who talked about this, that sign is real, but it runs high. I should say, I suppose it runs hot, but you get the idea. The National Weather Service did say, however, that the temperature in Death Valley, in fact, reached 120 degrees at midnight on Friday. So it's bad no matter what you have here. This one's one which I couldn't believe it never occurred to me. It said accept cookies, yes or no? It says Neo having to accept a cookie before the Oracle will interact with him is such a fun piece of program-related writing. I can't believe I never thought about that, but that's true. Yeah, Neo had to take a cookie even though it was given as something good. Who's to say it wasn't a tracking cookie of some kind? Okay. And then finally, in the immortal words of Carl Sagan, if science were easy, they would call it your mom. That's so bad. That is so awful. And I'm sure it's an old gag. I have no idea who did that first. I laughed, but let's move on. But then I said, no, one more. I have to throw in one more. And it's on user interface design. And the manager says, okay, this time we don't need documentation. It's obvious that users have seen this before and know how to use it. Me saying, okay, that's how they are getting coffee out of the coffee pot, basically by putting their mouth in it and blowing really hard. It's like, oh my goodness. Yeah, sure, no documentation needed. Well, have a great week, everybody. The video version is right here now. I'll upload that as soon as I add in all the edits. Last week was UberConf. This coming week, I just have my Managing Your Manager talk, and I'm doing a lot of other video-related stuff. So thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to seeing everybody again next week. Take care.